Here we go. After scanning the test, there's zero reason why you all should not get 100s on this test. To me, it's about the easiest one in history.
What? The last one.
Even though it's not in history, it's in math.
Dave does.
It was in history.
It's kind of hard, man.
How about this one?
Part of this, ladies and gentlemen, you just gotta stop overthinking things.
Yeah.
Part of it is just figuring out.
That's my problem, I always underthink.
That is true. Those are true words.
Oh,
Is it better to way overthink or way underthink? So now, oh no.
Yeah.
Let's go with London. Why don't you come move up here next to Jack? I put Evan next to Jack, but I'm not sure that would be a good idea. That was where I was first. Anybody else? All right, let's speed do this because I know you have questions, right? Correct?
yeah.
Is number 1448? Correct? Correct. 2 is yes. It is a triple. 3 should be 2 times the square root of 3 plus 3 times the square root of 2, ironically. 4 is negative 6x cubed minus 2x squared plus 26x plus 12. Please write your answers in standard form, which is starting with the highest exponent and going down to the lowest. Number 5 is 3s squared t squared times the square root ot. 6 is yes, because the constant of variation is negative 5. Yes. Number 7, no, they are not, because the slope of the first one is 3/5 and the slope of the other one is 5/3. Until you're mesmerized. I'm sorry. Number 8, factored out would be a negative 2x outside of x minus 2 times x plus 4. Those are 2 binomials. Number 9 is x plus 4. I'm sorry. Number 9 is 2 binomials, x plus 4y times x plus 2y. 10 is 2 outside of 4x minus 3 times x minus 2. Number 11, Jim needs to do chores for more than 4 1/2 hours. Or 4.5, or I suppose 9/2 if you do. 12, it is yes, it is a perfect square because it's x plus 4 times x plus 4. 13, let's ignore and hope it goes away. 14. I should just turn on the projector, but do I have to? Am I gonna end up doing this one? Oh, I'm sorry, the asymptotes are at negative 3, there's the vertical one, and at 0 is the horizontal one. Hence this. That's it. Done.
Make it, throw it.
Oh, oh, that was close. I know, I kind of just. It meant this, ladies and gents. Here at negative 3 was the vertical one, and since there was no number there, that's the horizontal one, and it's positive, so it looks like this and like that. That is that problem there.
So we were supposed to graph that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did it not say graph?
I don't know.
Well, let's look at the directions at some point. How else would you?
Oh,
Huh?
no, it's a graph identifier. Oh.
Me neither.
Huh. How about that?
Underthinking.
Huh?
I swear.
You do what?
I underthink.
Number 15. You get x is less than 2 or x is greater than or equal to 5. Now that one apparently is in the data graph. Did it? 16, negative 2a outside of the parenthesis 3a. Uh-oh, I'm sorry. Negative 2a under the radical 3a. Square root of 3a. Still can't get you there. Negative 2a times the square root of 3a. That's what we have. 17, x equals 12. 18, again, these are written in descending order, so it goes a cubed plus 4a squared plus 2a. The leading coefficient is the number that's in front of the first term, so that is a 1. Number 19, x is greater than -2, which means there's an open circle at -2 going to the right. And number 20, you have closed circles between -1 and 2 with a line colored in betwixt them. Let's do this. Like I said, I am seriously thinking that each and every person here should be able to get 100%, because I can tell you exactly what you need to know. If you just jot down these notes to yourself, I am confident that even the underthinkers, in addition to the overthinkers, will both, wait, can somebody open that window?
What?
That window. No wonder it's cold in here. London was complaining about how cold it was.
It's cold in the chapel. It's freezing.
Why were you in the chapel?
We're the chosen thing.
That's the church. The chapel's a little room next to the church.
I think we should just go 1 through 20 in order.
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
do
that makes
that.
sense.
I'll give it to you. That'll be fast and efficient. Question over answers? Jack,
Amanda, answer please.
please. Answers? What were 11? 4.5. Amelia?
What was one?
One was 448. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will guide you through the process that is going to make all of your nightmarish dreams go away. Again, I told you, you overthink this because you see all those words and you think you don't understand it. I will tell you, the book just tries to explain what this, Jackson, you close that door? Tries to explain to you what this formula means, and then they give you the formula and they just give you the number to put in the formula. The number they're saying, a penny's dropped from 512 feet tall tower. The equation is this, can be used to find the height h of the penny after falling for t seconds. So the t is seconds, and they give you 2 for t, so you just put it in the equation and figure out what h is. 512 minus h equals 16 times t squared. Where did that 2 come from? Where in the world did that 2 come from, Sam? Where'd that 2 come from?
The last sentence.
Yeah, I just gave it to you. Now it's just a matter of solving it. How hard is this? 512 minus h equals, you have to do exponents first, 4 times 16, which is 64. Now, if you solve this for h, Benjamin, we got a small little problem because the h is negative, but it's an easy fix in the end. It depends on how you want to do this. Let's just, this is what I would do if I were you, because the h is already by itself. I would actually move the h over there, because if I just add it over there, it becomes positive now. And then I would get rid of the 64, and then I don't have to deal with all that negative garbage. It's just 512 minus 64, which is 448. See what I'm saying? Otherwise, you gotta subtract 512 from 64, which means you gotta find the difference, which would be negative 448. And then because this is a negative h, you have to make it positive, and you have to make that positive. But either way, you get 448. Stop me if that did not make any sense. Let me do that again in super slow motion. London, are we okay with that? Problem number 2, you just need to look, is this on your list? Do you see a 10, 24, 26 up there? You don't. If that's the case, then you must see, do they have common factor? Which means this. You have a 10, a 24, and a 26. Ben, what number goes into all 3 of those?
5, 12.
No. It has to go into all of them. 5 doesn't go into 24, so you can't spot it. Yeah, so cut them all in half. Well, you put them on that, thank you. Cut them all in half and then look to see if that is a Pythagorean triple. Is there a 5, 12, 13 up there? There is. Oh, then this is. This is just a bigger version of that smaller triangle where you just doubled all the sides. So look for that common factor, and then if you see the numbers up there, then by golly, you are all over that. Look how fast we are. That should, none of those should be difficult. Number 3 is, let's change color for every problem. Wouldn't that be exciting for that one? What do you have to do here? This is just distributive property, which means 2 times the square root of 3 is 2 times the square root of 3. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 18, and I'm done, right? Why not? Yeah. This one you can't break down, but the square root of 18 is the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. And there is a square root of 9, which is anybody. 3. Now you're done. It's 2 times the square root of 3 plus 3 times the square root of 2. Are you with me on that one? Feel free to interject any thoughts in this. No. Problem number 4 is again, okay, this one, you have a binomial times a trinomial. There's no FOIL-like whatever thing. You simply have to multiply everything together. You have to multiply every term of the first by every term of the second. There's no easy way to do this. So it's simply a matter of taking 2x and multiplying it by all 3 of those, then taking your 4 and multiplying it by all 3 of those, and then combining if you're a farmer, combining if you're not. So 2x, can you see that from back there? Should I make that bigger? Yes, no, what? I'm afraid if I make it bigger though, my thing will be way too, it doesn't always work. So 2x times negative 3x squared is minus 6x cubed. 2x times 5x is plus 10x squared. 2x times 3 is plus 6x. 4 times negative 3x squared is negative 12x squared. 4 times 5x is 20x. And 4 times 3 is 12. Tell me there if that's not making heads or tails to you. And then which ones can you put together? Are there any other x cubes? No. So you have 6x cubed. Are there x squareds? Yeah. 10x squared minus 12x squared, Sam, is 10x squared minus 12x squared is negative 2x squared. 6x plus 20x is, Amelia? Yep, and then this 12 stuff there. Again, please write it descending order of. Stop me there. Stop me if you need something. Stop me. Does that make sense? No easy way, no shortcuts, no nothing. It's just a matter of. Number 5, what color have we done? Let's do it. Number 5, I would say the easiest way for you to do this, some of you can do this in your head, it's easy. I would break it down into whatever, what times what gives you 9? Square root of 3 times the square root of 3. What times what gives you s to the 4th? The square root of s times the square root of s times the square root of s times the square root of s. S to the 4th power. You have 5 t's. Then what? If you find pairs, the square roots go away and you just keep the number underneath of it. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is a normal 3. Square root of s times the square root of s is a normal s. Square root of s times the square root of s is another normal s. Square root of t times the square root of t is a normal t. Square root of t times the square root of t is another normal t. And this little guy here, he went probably wee all the way home. He's got no pal. He has to stay the square root of t. Then multiply the stuff you got, which is 3s squared t squared square root of t. Still waiting for somebody to say, but I don't get that. What? Number 6, all I can tell you is this, ladies and gentlemen, in order for this to be direct variation, this is all you have to do. I'm gonna do it as simply as I can. You have to look at this and go, okay, how do I go from 3 to negative 15? What do I multiply it by? Negative 5. If this is direct variation, all of these would have to be times negative 5. You can't change times negative 5. Is negative 2 times negative 5 10? Yes. Is negative 4 times negative 5 20? Yes. Then this is direct variation. And that constant of variation is this, whatever you multiply by. If this last one didn't work out, then you put no, and there is no constant of variation. That really is probably the simplest way to do it, don't you think? Linda, did you overthink that one or underthink that one? Or not think of that one at all?
I don't think at all.
Breakneck speed. 7, I would say, is probably the hardest problem for you to do. Why, you asked, Elijah? Why? Because you have to figure out, first of all, you have to know for lines to be parallel, they have to have the same slope. If tomorrow's tests ask you if they're perpendicular, what do perpendicular lines have as far as slope, Jack?
Opposite. Okay.
It is. It's opposite reciprocal or negative. If it asks you for perpendicular, it is opposite reciprocal. This asks you for the same slope. So the slope of both of these lines has to be 3/5. This one is in slope intercept form. It doesn't matter what the intercept is. This is the only thing you care about. Both lines have to have that 3/5 slope. And the problem with that is this line, you probably could just graph these lines and see if they look parallel, but that might not always work. The best way is you are going to have to solve this for y. Because that will put this equation in slope-intercept form, and then you'll be able to see if you come up with a 3/5 in front of the x, then it is. So here what you do is you subtract 10x to get it to the other side. So now you have a negative 6y equals negative 10x plus 18. And then to get the y by itself, you divide by negative 6. Divide everything by negative 6. And this is all you care about. If you simplify this, what do you get? A positive 5/3. And since 3/5 and 5/3 are not the same, these lines are not parallel. Are they perpendicular? Huh? Yes or no?
No.
Did I spell that right? Oh my gosh. Why are they not parallel, David?
Because one of them's not negative.
Yeah, because they're not opposite. They are reciprocal, but they're not opposite. Ta-da, congratulations. Good day. Evan, did that make sense to you?
Yeah.
I love it. I probably had more people ask about problem number 8 than any problem on the book there. Factor the trinomial. Remember, rule number 1 of factoring is to take out any common factors. In other words, don't try to break this into a binomial yet. Since these are all 3 even, you can take out a 2. And because you want the first term always to be positive, you're going to take out a negative 2. And they also, all 3 have an x in them. So the common factor they all have is negative 2x. You with me, Benjamin? What then am I left with if I take a negative 2x? Maybe it would help you to do this, by the way. Since you're taking out a negative, this first term is going to be positive. The second term is going to be positive. But the third term is going to be negative, because you're going to end up with the negative signs. When you take a negative out, it's going to change all of them to their opposites, which is what you want. Benjamin, if I take a 2x out of negative 2x cubed, I'm left with a, what's that? I already took, but I had an x cubed and I took one of those x's out, I'm left with x squared. I'm taking a negative 2x out of negative 4x squared, I'm left with a Roland. Don't let Ben do this all himself. If I take a 2x out of 16x, I'm left with a, just an 8. Now you have to try to reverse backwards, FOIL this into two binomials. It shouldn't be hard. You know this has to be x, because that's the only way to get x squared. What two numbers, when multiplied together, give you negative 8, when added together, give you 2 jacks? Uh-oh.
2 and 4.
4 and 2. Which one's positive, which one's negative?
Negative 2.
Because it said you have to end up with a 2 more than the negative, or it has to be positive because you need a positive 2. And this, children, kids of all ages, is your number 9. Hopefully number 9 didn't give you, we didn't do a lot of this, but it's not that difficult. Ugly shade of brown. Just know this. We are used to getting an x squared there, so you know that has to be x. We don't see letters very often at the end, but all it is if there's a y squared there, it's just that your second term, your second part of your binomial is also going to have that letter there. So y times y will give you that y squared, yx gives you that. So then you just have to think about what times what gives you 8, when added together gives you 6. Ava Russell, is the second day with braces better than the first, or is it worse? Is it? Probably. How long, wait, who has braces? Who's had braces? When does it get better, Sophia? Like a week? Like 2 days, 3 days?
A week, and then when we go back, it hurts me.
Yeah, because they have to tighten them. That's the whole point of it, isn't it? They're trying to shift your teeth. Anyways, Ava, what times what gives you positive 8 when added together gives you 6? 4 and 2. Doesn't matter which one is which. Correct. One day. This one here, the problem with this, you're still supposed to factor it. In order to factor, you have to write it in standard form, so you need to move this x squared term to the first part. So it's 8x squared minus 22x plus 12. And then Kayla, as stated before, what's the very first thing you think about when you're factoring? Lexi, first thing you think about when you factor is, do they have a common factor? Can you take something out of all 3 of those, which is, the answer is a 2. Can't take a 4 out of this one, otherwise it you. So you end up taking a 2 out, then you're left with 4x minus 11x plus 6. And then you have to try, and some people struggle with this.
Isn't it just the cube? So
And then I had people factoring this. And this one's a little tougher because naturally you want to think you get 4x squared, you put 2x and 2x there, and then try to break apart 6. But that did not work no matter what combo. So if that doesn't work, then you have to go and try the other combination, which would be 4x and x. Then what times what? By the way, hopefully at some point you see this. The only way to get a positive this and a negative this is for what? These both have to be subtraction. Okay, because the only way to get a positive answer here is for both of these signs to be the same. But if they were both positives, then you get a positive here. If they're both negatives, you get a negative there. And then how do I get 11? I would put a 2 there because 2 times 4 gives you 8x. And I would put a 3 there because that 8x plus another 3x is 11. That is all trial and error. How much time do we have left? Oh, 15. I think I can do it. We do have the end of the day. And Again, if you're overthinking this, you see all those words and you go, what? But they give you, they tell you right here, you don't even need to read those words because they tell you, they give you everything right here. They just say, solve the inequality. They give you the inequality used, you just have to solve it. Okay, they're just kind of telling you what this inequality stands for. You borrowed $95, but they subtract 10 times whatever for chores, whatever it is that you just need to do this. Now, right away, David Ulrich, there's red flags that go up about this. Why?
Negative.
Because this negative, when you deal with inequalities, to get this to be positive, that inequality is going to change. That's the way that works. So the first thing you do is subtract 95. Uh-oh, that's also an ugly thing. 50 minus 95 is negative 45. And I have negative 10x is less than that. What's my fix here? Ella Bromlin. And what happens when you divide by a negative? The sign changes to its opposite. Negative 45 divided by negative 10 is positive 4.5. Or what the answer was, which was 4.5 hours. Which makes sense. If you ended up with a negative answer, that wouldn't make sense because you can't get negative, whatever this is, the number of hours. You can't have negative 4.5 hours. How about that? We good? This is a participation thing, which I don't know if this one is, but there it was. At least Evan gave me some sort of a sigh of whatever. We get to skip 13, right? A perfect square, well, let's just do it first. If you're factoring this, what do you get? In order for something to be a perfect square binomial, these two have to be identical. What's your other option? They might ask you if they're the difference of the squares. That would be when there's no term in the middle. Well, this ends up being what? X plus 4 times x plus 4, right? If they ask you for the difference of squares, that's when you get something like x squared minus 16, because then it ends up being x minus 4 times x plus 4. But they want it to be perfect square, which means you could write it like this, x plus 4 squared. Perfect square. 13 we skipped. 14, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the asymptotes. Remember, the x1 is what x can't be down here. What number can you not put in there? You cannot put in there a negative 3. If you're graphing this, you can't get a negative 3 because it's unsolvable with that. So there's your x. Your y1 is this number here, which unfortunately is not there, so it's just a plus 0. So here where y is 0, where y is 0 is your other one. And because this is positive, it's on this side right here. If it was negative right in front of here, this would be on the other two corners. Again, I'm waiting for somebody to stop me to say, could you do that? Oh, again, you're going too fast. Anything. Anything, ladies and gentlemen, please help me out here. Notice this one didn't say to graph, it just said to solve it. So you just solve it. And they're solved just like equations. 3x plus 2 is less than 8, means you would subtract 2. Subtract 2 and get 6. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. X has to be less than 2. Or, you got to solve this one. An opposite, add 5, Add 5, you get 10. 2x is greater than 10. Divided by 2, divided by 2. X is greater than 5. We're drafting it just for fun. You add 2. I'll do 2 will go this way. You're at 5. You go this way. They didn't ask you to, so roll. So far, so good? Stop me if you get it. Oh boy. I don't like this problem. This is probably the second hardest. But for 16, first thing you have to do is you need to simplify. Because remember, the only way, Benjamin, to add radicals together is if they are identical. You have to have the same thing under the square root signs in order to add them together. Right now, they're not. You cannot, or you can simplify this. Ugh, let's do it over here. A times the square root of 12a. If you break down the square root of 12a, you get the square root of 4 times the square root of 3 times the square root of a. And there is a square root of 4, which is 2. These two don't have anything to cross off with, so they still stay the square root of 3a. Then you have to multiply these two together, which is just 2a. Are you with me? The only way you'll be able to add this with this is if this simplifies into a square root of 3a there. So you get that. And what do we get? What is the square root of 48a cubed? So the square root of 48 is the square root of 16 times the square root of 3. It's looking good so far. And you have the square root of a times the square root of a times the square root of a. Square root of 16 is 4. Thank you, whoever said that. Must have been somebody close. 2 of these give you a normal a. And what's left is that square root of 3 and that square root of a. Which, by the way, looks like it works out nicely. When you add them together, these radicals do not change. It is 3a. You combine the beginning parts of it. What is 2a minus 4a? If you have 2a's and you take 4a's away, you still have a minus 2a's. That was kind of a tough one. There was a grunt again. Is that you, Evan? Why? Why are you like doing so well? What color, Evan? Green, thank you.
Yeah.
17, ladies and gentlemen, just make sure you have the direct or the inverse variation formula, which is simply this. X1 times Y1 equals X sub 2 times Y sub 2. Those two things, when they multiply together, have to equal each other. So if x varies inversely as I, and y equals 8 when x equals 6, this would be your sub 1s. X equals 6 when y equals 8. Find x. I don't know what x sub 2 is, but it gets multiplied by 4. These would be the sub 2's. 6 times 8 is 48. And that equals 4 times x, or x sub 2, it doesn't matter. Divide by 4, x must equal, or x sub 2 must equal 12. Oh, I think I can finish, kids. 18, 19, 20? In standard form, again, you must, in standard form, you put the highest exponents first. A cubed, x times is 4a squared plus 2a. It doesn't ask you to factor, that's all they want you to do, except they want you to list the leading coefficient. The leading coefficient is the number in front of the first term. If no number is there, it is an assumed 1. Leading coefficient equals 1. Ta-da! And then just 19 and 20, people are already packing up their bags. Solve and graph. just like on whatever here. Add 4x to get it to the other side. Do I change the sign with that? I do not. Why? Because you only change it when you multiply or divide by negative. So this ends up being 7x. I subtract my 2, I subtract my 2, 7x is greater than negative 14. Dividing by 7, dividing by 7, x has to be greater than negative 2. 0, negative 2, x is greater than. I might take this test myself. Wow. Elijah, what's your thoughts? Anything? Big finish? How many people missed number 20?
Really?
Here would be note to self. Step number 1 is if you can combine the middle stuff. In other words, this. Take this stuff that's between the inequality signs and put them together if you can. In other words, you have a 4x and a 2x, that is 6x minus 2.
That's so smart.
And then the second note to myself is, all right, to solve for x, you have to do it to both sides. In other words, I want my x by itself. I get rid of this minus 2 first by adding 2, but I have to do that to both sides of this thing. So this ends up being minus 6 less than or equal to 6x, which is less than or equal to 12. And then the last step is, what did I tell you? I got to see another one. And it was much easier than this. Divide by 6, but everything gets divided by 6. You end up with a negative 1 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 2. Which really says x is greater than or equal to negative 1 and less than or equal to 2. It's an and problem, so they come together. It goes from negative 1 colored in because it's equal to 2. All right, colored in because it's equal. And you colored it in because it's equal. Uh-oh, hope.
Can I look at Spanish?
Yes, go get your Spanish, please. Meanwhile, I will stop this crazy thing.